name is Sherry Leviner, and I will be teaching multiplying and dividing exponents with the same base and deriving the rule. I teach 8th grade math and Algebra 1. So the standard today I'm going to be teaching is AEEI.1, basically exponent laws. When I teach a class, normally I do one or two things. I have them write notes, or I give them notes. Today I'm going to give them notes, and they will fill in blanks. And I'll tell them when I'm writing, they need to write. So I'm going to start my lesson. Good afternoon, class. Today we are going to learn to multiply and divide same bases using the rule. Look at your notes, and you will see parts of a power. Please fill in the words that I'm underlining. So a power has two parts, a base and an exponent. You will notice down here we're going to have the same words. So pointing at the large A is base, pointing at the small 4 is exponent, and then the factors I need you to write in A times A times A times A. Those are the factors. We read it as A to the 4th power. Please don't say A4. That doesn't make sense. Next part, which says multiplying powers with the same base. So, we're going to multiply A to the 5th power, A to the 3rd power. And I like to break it down and put it back together. So you'll notice it's already there for you. I have A to the 5th power. So I'm writing A times A times A times A 5 times. I'm going to multiply that by A to the 3rd power. I'm going to write it 3 times. Then I count how many A's I have. I have 8 A's, so therefore it is A to the 8th power, or 8th power. Notice the exponent is 8, which is equal to 5 plus 3. So 5, 3, if I add them together, I'll get 8. Let's do a couple more. Rule 1. When multiplying powers with the same base, we add the exponents. So we are going to get this right here. So on your notes, I want you to write, first thing, 2 squared, which is going to be 2 times 2, multiplied by 2 squared, which is 2 times 2, which of course is 2, and there's 4 of them, so 4, and then we can finish it off and say 16. So break it down, put it back together, go ahead and multiply if you need to. Look at the next one. X to the 9th power times X to the 1st power. Normally you won't see this one, but it's there. So, X to the 9th power. I'm going to multiply X 9 times. Okay? And then I'm going to multiply that by X. When I finish, I count the X's and I will have X to the 10th power. Okay? Let's look back at the rule. If we're multiplying, we add the exponent. So if I add X plus, or 2 plus 2, I will get 4. If I add 9 plus 1, I will get 10. So break it down, put it back together, or just add the exponent. Next. So I only want you to try 1, 2, and 4. So please try 1, 2, and 4. So at this time, they'll be working on them. They're seated in small groups. So I will walk around and make sure they're getting it, answer any questions they may have. And then I'll also be writing down students that I may need to talk to in a small group setting so that I can make sure they understand. All right, so I come back And so I come back and we talk about the answers. Make sure there's no questions. If they have questions, we talked about them out loud. And then I normally will have them do the next set and do the exact same thing. Okay. Class, go ahead and find your notes that says dividing powers with the same base. And we're going to go ahead and start doing the math. I already got part of it written, but we're going to go ahead and do this. So when you're dividing powers, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to break it down, but we're going to break down the numerator and the denominator and then put them back together. So when we get done, we're going to get 2. And this goes like this. So I have 5. I have c to the 5th power, which means I'm going to have 5 c's. We're going to ignore this c and say c times c times c times c times c. Okay? And then I have c to the 3rd power, which is going to be c times c times c. Now the cool thing about division is if you have the same thing on top and bottom, it just divides and becomes 1. So on here, I have a set of c's that are the same. So that becomes 1. I got another set, c divided by c is 1, and another set, c divided by c is 1. So what's left is c times c, which is c squared. And if you notice, if I were to subtract 5 minus 3, I would get 2. So there's the rule. And we'll get ready to do that in a minute, but there's how you do it. We're going to break it down, put it back together. So let's do a couple more with me. So we're going to do these together. So when dividing powers with the same base, we're going to subtract the exponents of the denominator from the exponent of the numerator. So basically, m minus n. And we're going to get there, but we're going to do it by breaking it down, put it back together so you can see both ways. So on top, I have 2 to the 5th power, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the 3rd power, 2 3 times multiplied. Again, same thing top, same thing bottom. I'm going to cross out and become 1. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. What's left is 2 and a 2, which is 2 squared, which of course is going to be 4. When you have numbers, you're going to do the same thing you've been doing. So 8 divided by 4, of course, is going to be 2. We know that. And then we're going to take these guys, and we're going to come over here and do these. So I've got x to the 8th power. So I'm going to write x 8 times and multiply. Okay. And then x to the 3rd power. So I'm going to x 3 times and multiply them. And again, if you have the same thing top and bottom, they divide and become 1. So x divided by x is 1, x divided by x is 1, x divided by x is 1. There's nothing else I can divide. So I go with what's left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 2 x to the 5th power. Okay? Now, before we go to C, let's go back and look at our rule. It said to subtract our exponents. 5 minus 3 should be 2. Yes, it is. 8 minus 3 should be 5. Yes, it is. We did good. Let's go on to the next one. So in this one, you see 2 sets of variables. So same thing. Break it down, put it back together. I have 5 x's. So, excuse me, I have x to the 5th power, which is, we're going to multiply it 5 times. So x times x. 5x is multiplied times 4y's multiplied. to give us y to the fourth power. On the bottom, x to the third power, which is going to be 3x's multiplied together, and 1y multiplied together. Now I can do my canceling if it equals 1. So x divided by x, 1. X divided by x, 1. X divided by x, 1. Y divided by y. I don't have any more x's I can divide. I have no more y's I can divide. So I find what's left. X to the second power, y to the third power. Now let's see if our rule holds true. If it's right, we're subtracting and we get the same thing. 5 minus 3, yes, 2. 4 minus, that's right. We put a 1 there to help us out, and we get 3. So it works. Any questions? Okay. All right, so you try now. See how you do. I'll walk around and help as needed. Okay, so again, I'm gonna walk around. I'm gonna help the students, help them if they're struggling to break it down, put it back together so they can start seeing that rule in action. And then I'll be writing down names of students that I want to work with. All right, class. There's your answers. We'll talk about them. Notice how they just went ahead and subtracted and got their answers, so that works. But if you still needed to break it down and put it back together, that is totally fine. Okay, so now in your Google Classroom, there's an assignment called Multiplying and Dividing Exponents activity. It is a self-checking activity, so as you are filling it in, it'll tell you if you're right. Okay, so at this point, I will be calling my small groups of students that I wrote down. The rest of the students will be working on that activity. At the end of the class, I will summarize what we went over. For me, it's the end of class. It's almost time to leave. So these are the questions that I want you to do. I will take them up as you leave, and we'll talk about them tomorrow. Hello, just to finish up my video, in order to differentiate instruction for my students and give them practice, I will, first of all, be putting them in pods of 3 to 4 students based on their placement, advanced, proficient, non-proficient, so that I know where the IEPs are, I know where the struggling students are, and I can adjust them first, see how they need help, and help them, and then write down names who are still struggling. Formative assessments, I want to make sure that I know I talked about them in the video, in my lesson, but I just want to re-talk about them. They are observation, a self-check activity that will be happening while I'm doing small groups, and the ticket out the door. How will I know if my students have success? I will see that in their self-check activity. I'll also see it with their ticket out the door. Thank you for this opportunity, and have a great day.